And good afternoon, everyone. Awesome. Oh, so we got a couple of folks in the room here, in the virtual room here at Links to Learning with Can Do, who are joining us from Ontario. So we are so honored to have family across Turtle Island. I'm Michelle. I'm joining from Amiskwaciy, Waskahigan, Treaty 6 territory. So just wherever you are, just taking a moment to honor the land in which you live, you play. You know, we're students for life. We're learning. This gift of land, this gift that we're able to call home. So we just take a moment and acknowledge where we are, where we live, and acknowledge also the history of the lands in which we live on. So we give thanks to Creator for the gift of this opportunity that we can come together, as a virtual family to learn and to grow, and especially today's presentation, learning about leadership essentially. So Creator, we just thank you for this opportunity in this moment that we can come together and learn. So hi, all my relations. So it's turning into a new season next week. Will be a new season. Fall will be upon us, but we were just talking earlier about this beautiful weather, this transition between summer and fall, and enjoying this beautiful weather. So I hope you have beautiful weather where you're at. You're able to go out and be on the land and just take a moment to just appreciate all the gifts that are around you. So we're happy you're here. It is Tuesday. Today's conversation is the seven imperatives of great CEOs with John Wilson. John, we are so honored and delighted that you're with us this afternoon. So a little bit about our guest speaker. He is the active owner, president, and chief executive officer of CEO Global Network. He is driven by his passion for business and his belief that it is people that form the heart and soul of every organization. Oh, that's beautiful. John has carried this belief into his vision for CEO Global Network and is unconditionally supportive of all the organization's members, who he believes to be the essence of what CEO Global Network stands for. John is dedicating to fulfilling the organization's mission, which is this: to significantly improve the success and lives of CEOs and executives, their families, and their companies. Beautiful. So he's an experienced entrepreneur, business owner, and leader. So he's just bringing his good knowledge, his expertise, what he knows to be true to the table today. I have my notepad, I have my pen, my heart is open. I hope yours is as well, to just take in the good knowledge that he's going to bring to us today. So John currently sits on the board of Directors of Excellence Canada and is also an accomplished and sought after speaker on the topics of leading fast growth and the seven imperatives of great CEOs, which is what he's going to talk about today. So John, we are so honored that you're here with us. The floor is open. I just want to say there is going to be an opportunity for questions or comments at the end, but use that chat box as questions come along, as you hear the presentations, what he's sharing. Put those questions in the chat box. I will be sure to note them down, and we will make sure your voice is heard. So John, we're happy you're here. We're honored. The floor is yours. I'm passing this virtual mic off to you.
Michelle, I am honored. I am honored to be with you and everybody here today. Thank you so much for that terrific introduction. I really appreciated your sincerity and your enthusiasm for introducing me. Thank you very much. It's just great to be here with you. Danielle and Michelle and I were talking just before we got started. I'm just back from a walk on the land here, and I do that several times a day, and it is a blessing every day to be there with the land and everything that it represents. So I value that dearly. I tell you that. So thank you so much for the invitation to be here. I'm excited about this next, let's say 55 minutes together. My hope is that by about a quarter to the hour, you have got 3 practical nuggets that you can take away from this conversation and that you can take action on to just have a better life, quite frankly. These are things that can help you have a better life. If you're running businesses today, there's no question you're going to get some, tools, ideas that will make your life better. I started CO Global Network in 2008 at the age of 67 because I know the pain of building a business, running a business. Never a straight line. Success is never a straight line. I know the pain and I know the joy of it. I know the pain and the joy. And the reason I started the company, is to help leaders not have very much pain. Like I hope that your leadership journey is painless. And that's hard, by the way, that's hard. But I'm hoping that some of the things that you take away from my comments today will make it a little less painful. Okay, that's my goal. And I'd like to start with, I want to give you 3 gifts. 3 gifts and then a quick story. Maybe a couple of quick stories, okay? By the way, I am not a great leader. I'm telling you, I'm going to share with you today things that I've learned from great leaders, that I've had the privilege of being with up close and personal. I've had the privilege of working with these people, and I want to share them. But first, the 3 I want to share. I have 3 gifts for you. One is this, and it's a quote. It's a quote from Peter Drucker. If you look behind me here, you'll see a couple of Drucker books, and if you could see further, you'd see more Drucker books. I don't know whether you're familiar with Peter Drucker, but they call him the father of modern management. And here is his quote: "Every soldier has the right to competent command." Every soldier has the right to competent command. Well, we're talking about leadership today. And that's military leadership. But there's lessons there for leadership in business, leadership in life. Like, all leadership is not around running a business. It's everybody that we influence and touch every day. That's leadership. How do we influence them? Positive, negative, neutral? Every employee has the right to competent leadership. That's where we come in. That's where these lessons. Okay, so that's the context here, because that the level of engagement by employees in North America is like 33%. I might even be exaggerating a bit. It seems to me it might be 26. So it's low. Why is it low? Incompetent leadership. Yeah. So let's talk about, so that's gift number 1 from Peter Drucker. Gift number 2, Charlie Munger. You may not know Charlie Munger. Charlie Munger is the man behind Warren Buffett. They're the 2 people behind Berkshire Hathaway, and very successful. They've taken some body blows lately. Okay. A lot of people have, but Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett have seen thousands of leaders in their lifetime. They buy companies based on leadership and the competence of the leaders in the companies that they are looking at buying, and they buy competent leadership. And Charlie said that the best leaders, when their head hits the pillow every night, They're smarter when they got up that morning. They are lifelong learners. They're thirsty. They're thirsty to learn. And then the last quote I just want to give you as a gift is from Jim Greenwood. Jim Greenwood is a really good friend of mine. He's been in my CEO groups for 20 years. I did say I started in 2008, but I was working with CEOs before that. And Jim ran Gordon Food Service, which is now a big national food distribution company. They're in Edmonton. They're everywhere. They're everywhere. And this is from Jim, and it's in the book. Business is all about the people. Business is all about people and relationships with people. We're going to talk about that in a second. We're going to drill a little down on that. But think about that. Business is all about the people. The hard stuff in business, the numbers, the production, the machines, that's easy. That's the easy part of business. The tough stuff is the soft stuff, the people skills, working with people. And the best and brightest, great CEOs are outstanding with working with people. I'm going to tell you a little story. So those are the three gifts. Now I'd like to tell you a little story. My daughter and I are watching a Leaf game. So I apologize to those outside of the area. But we're watching a Leaf game. And post-game interviews, a young defenseman for the Leafs had a great game early in the season, but it made the team. 19 years old. Reporter says to him, "Wow, Connor." No, it's not Connor McDavid. It's a different Connor. Unfortunately, Connor McDavid never played for the Leafs. But Connor, congratulations on making the NHL. Not many 19-year-olds get into this league. It's a pretty few people that get into that rarefied air, and you're playing extremely well. What is your secret? My daughter and I are watching this, right? We're sitting on the couch, and Connor says, "Well, it's the aggregation of marginal gains. I just work on getting 1% better every game, every practice. I'm working on getting 1% better." And I looked at my daughter. I said, "What did he say?" And we rewound it. Thank goodness you got that feature. We rewound it and listened to it again, because that was coming out of the mouth of a hockey player, and it's a beautiful statement. Aggregation of marginal gains is what we're all about. Great CEOs get better every day. Every day they're working at getting better at the margin. Everybody's good, but if you want to become great, you're working the margin. Just like the great athletes, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. Imagine, I want to take you on a journey. Imagine yourself all alone in a dark hotel room in Dallas, Texas. 10 o'clock in the morning, sunshine. Why is the room dark? Well, you don't want to see the sunshine. You've pulled the drapes. You're at a Fairfield Inn, by the way. Fairfield Inn, right by the Dallas Fort Worth Airport. You're pacing the floor. You're walking up and down in that room because you've just got a phone call. You just got a phone call from your biggest supplier, and you're running a fast-growing business. But your customers aren't paying you fast. They're dragging their feet. Cash never flows fast enough when you need it, right? And boy, do you ever need it. Who are you going to call? Who's going to be the next call to you for money? You got a payroll to meet on Friday. What are you going to do? You've never felt fear like that. You've never felt so lonely in your business life. Well, you've probably guessed by now, that was me. That was me in that hotel room. I have to tell you, I was on my knees. I did not know how I was going to get out from between that rock and hard place. I was so fearful. And when I tell you the story, and I tell this story a lot, every time I tell the story, I get sick at my stomach. That's how bad it was, right? That's how bad it was. Fortunately for me, someone who I called that day, and you start calling me, like, who am I going to call? Who do I call? And you go down the list, and I was surprised by who called me back. And it wasn't the person at the top of the list or midway. It was called me back and didn't write a check to get me out of that jam financially, but introduced me to other entrepreneurs who, hey, John, we've gone through this. Here's a way to look at this. Here's a way. Here, I think we can help. Why don't you call this person over here? And before you know it, I'm working my way out. And that was a turning point for me in my lifetime. I mean, there's certain points in your life you look back, hey, boy, there's a turning point. And for me, I said, if I ever get out of this jam, I am going to work very hard to make sure other entrepreneurs, and it's not just entrepreneurs, it's people running other people's businesses too, because I've been there, done that too, and that's not easy either. And so I eventually built that business and sold that business. And that was in California. I was living in California, but we were southwestern United States. Eventually moved back to Canada. And when I moved back to Canada, I started working with CEOs circa 2001, right? Started working with CEOs to help them any way I could. Like I'm not a bright consultant. I'm a business person. It's just, I've learned a lot from the school of hard knocks over a long time now, which is how fortunate am I for that. And so just to be a sounding board and ask the right question at the right time, be there at the right time, just be there. The reason I tell you that story is that it was my motivator to move me into what I'm doing now. And now I've been doing it for a long time. And I have had the privilege of working with hundreds of CEOs, hundreds of business owners and executives. And I've learned so much from them, but I've learned that there are three things. Let's say three things. Like there's more. We'll go to the 7 imperatives in a minute, but three things. One is great CEOs are made, they're not born. Number one, great CEOs are made. They're not born. You might be born with certain things, but it ain't going to get you all the way. There's no way it's going to get you all the way. We've all seen plenty of examples of that, haven't we? And this is where the lifelong learning comes in, and the aggregation of marginal gains. When their head hits the pillow every night, smarter, right? Smarter. Always looking to learn from different situations, reading books, meeting people, sharing best practices. That's one. Two is they're a success in all dimensions of their life. It's not just about building a big business and making a lot of money. How many people do we know like that have done that, and it's cost them terribly in the relationships of their loved ones, in many cases, and other people that are important in their lives, right? So it's about being successful in all dimensions of your life. Your personal life, your spiritual life, your family life, your business life. But boy, if one of those is off, they're going to impact everything. If one of those is off, it's going to impact everything. So the great CEOs have figured that out. And then the third thing is there are 7 imperatives. There's 7 things that I've learned, not 6, not 8, 7 things that I've learned from all these CEOs that I've had the privilege of working with that are important. They're important. And if we can get these right, if we can get better, aggregation, marginal gains, if we can get better at these things, we're going to have a better life, as will everybody around us. Let's think that way, right? If we can get better at this, the people around us are going to have a better life, and so will we. So will we. Just think if we could get 1% better every month. Just think about that. I mean, 1% better every month. I mean, I could probably get better by 1% every hour if I really worked at it. But let's just think every month. At the end of the year, we're 12% better. We're even more for the accountants on the screen. If there's accountants on the screen, I know it's even more with compounding. And in 5 years, we're twice as good as we are today at leadership. Well, that's a good motivator, really. I mean, I think that's important. And so let's talk about the 7 imperatives. Let's just quickly go. Let's quickly go through them, and then I'm going to come back. And I'm going to keep an eye on the clock here, Michelle, because we got to keep an eye on the clock. But I'm going to just touch on them. So, number 1. Great CEOs, great leaders are emotionally intelligent. We're going to come back and talk about that. They are emotionally intelligent. That's all I'm going to say about it right now. The second thing they are inspiring. Just think of the best boss you ever had, or the best leader you ever had. Like, if there's students on the call, who was the best teacher you ever had, the best coach you ever had? Like, think about that. Who was the most inspiring? We're going to come back to that. Who's the most inspiring up to this point in your life? Great leaders, great CEOs they're inspiring. Great CEOs are always tapping into the wisdom of other people, and they have developed a toolkit. I call it a toolkit filled with great CEO tools. And I'm going to touch on a couple of them, and during this time together. But best practices, learning best practices, putting them on the shelf back here. You can't do them all at once. You're going to learn things today. I hope. I really hope you do. That you can't take action on it tomorrow, but maybe 3 years from now. I remember what that guy Wilson said back, on September 13th. In 2022, and this is the time for it. The 4th imperative is work-life balance. Great CEOs, as I said earlier, have balance in their lives. You can't be out of balance and be a great CEO. We're going to come back to that because there's ways. I've seen all kinds of leaders out of balance. There's reasons for it. The 5th is they build a great team. They are able to attract, because they're inspiring leaders, they are able to attract high-performing people. And that doesn't mean like that you got to spend a lot of money. We'll come to that. It's you've attracted someone to work with you. Even if you're first, second employee, they're there because they've got special qualities that, and they, out of respect for you, and they know you respect them, they're A players. They get results. They help you get to where you want to go. They help you achieve your vision for the company. That's really important. Leading an A team, having high performance people around you is critical to success. And so the great CEOs I've known do that. They also develop a culture of getting results, putting the numbers on the board. You got to put the numbers on the board, right? You got to get results because that's the flywheel to growth. And it's the flywheel to serving your customers, to serving everyone around you, your employees, your suppliers, everybody around you. Develop a culture of accountability. It's really important. I'm going to share with you a couple of tools on how you can do that. And then the last thing is great CEOs are connected to other CEOs. They're not lonely like I was in that Fairfield Inn. They are connected. I wasn't connected enough then. And, you know, I just got an email. I just saw it come in before we got on the call, where, you know, one of our CEOs is asking, hey, do we know somebody that does this? Do we know somebody that does that? That's the value of a network, is being able to tap in to other people and people who care for you and who you care for. That's really important. So we'll talk about those. So those are the 7. Let's drill down in the time we got. I'm going to fly through this, and, you know, Michelle, you know, stop me if you think I'm going too fast on this, but let's talk about emotional intelligence. Quite often when I talk about emotional intelligence to leaders, their eyes glaze over. Give me a break, John. Emotional intelligence. Let's talk about getting things done. Well, business is all about the people. So being emotionally intelligent is 5 times more important than IQ or technical skill for leaders. 5 times. What is emotional intelligence? You know, emotional intelligence is our ability to understand our emotions and manage them. And manage them. Like, it's not, well, I know I'm a loose cannon, I'm just a loose cannon. You know, I'm a loose cannon, and that's just what I'm like. I don't have any impulse control. You know, like, I follow the shiny objects, and we all know people like that. And, well, that's gonna catch you. That's gonna come back and hit you in the back of the head, because you can't do that and run a business. You can't do that and be a great leader. Emotional intelligence is 5 times more important than IQ. Remember that. Now, so one of the things you want to think about is there's 15 emotional intelligence skills. You can take an emotional intelligence self-assessment to determine, of the 15 skills, what's your top and what's your bottom. What's the rank order? You know, what's the rank order? And, you know, there are things like assertiveness, impulse control, empathy, stress tolerance, flexibility. You know, out of the 15, my lowest score when I took this test years ago, my lowest was flexibility. Well, I've worked on that. My daughter helped me all the time. Hey, John, hey, Dad, you know, you gotta go to the store a different way. You know, you can't go the same way every day. So a tool for anybody who wants to get better at their emotional intelligence, and oh, by the way, it is a game changer for people. Okay. And it's been proven, correlation. Leaders who fail, low emotional intelligence. Leaders who succeed, high. That's been proven. I won't get into the research, but that has been proven. The other good thing, and this is good news for me, okay, and, you know, it's not quite as good news for you, but you can get better at emotional intelligence at any age. Any age. I can get better at emotional intelligence. My IQ is not going to change. So, by the way, the top 3 emotional intelligence qualities are empathy. Empathy. Every leader can get better at empathy. The higher you go in an organization, the lower your empathy gets quite often, which is very interesting, isn't it? But the great CEOs work on it. And it's empathy and it's self-awareness. When that person walks in the room, why do I get that feeling in the pit of my stomach? Like, why do I feel the way when they come in the room? Or when I get an email from that person, why do I all of a sudden, you know, whatever. Empathy, self-awareness. And the reason it's so important, put them together, it's the ability to relate to people. And as a great leader, you've got to be able to relate with people. All kinds of people. Like, there's no cookie cutter here. Everybody's different. And so you can't use one approach. You gotta, you know, with that person on my team, that's important. With that person, that's important, and so on. So anyway, we could talk all day about that. It's really important. It's a major takeaway, and better at any age. You can get better at any age at that. And there's ways you can become, I'd recommend you become a student. If you want to become a really good leader, become a student of emotional intelligence, like work on it. The second thing is great leaders are inspiring. Think of who was the greatest, most inspiring leader you've ever known. You know, we're not talking about, you know, people that are, you know, role models out there that we've never met. I'm talking about people that we've met them, like we've worked with them, or we've been in their class, or whatever. Right? We've been on their teams. They've been the coach of the team, maybe the captain of the team. And so give that some thought. You know, the thing is, what's so important in inspiration and being an inspirational leader is relating to the person, number one, and being empathetic, and, you know, really connecting with them. And, you know, one of the things I find is, and I think it's even more difficult today than ever, we don't have the time to connect. We're too busy. I mean, it's overload. How do you connect with people in a busy world? Shut it down. Take the time. The number one thing that everybody that is working with you or who will ever work with you, the number one thing they want is your time and your undivided attention. If you think back to who inspired you the most, it was someone, I would bet, because it is for me, and I've talked to many people about this. Well, number one, she believed in me more than I believed in myself. How many, you know, I mean, how important is that? Like, you know, I hope we all have people in our lives who have believed in us so much that they inspired us to go further, right? Inspired us to go further. It's really important in terms of building a company, because if you want to attract really good people into your company, you've got to be inspiring. And it doesn't mean you're a cheerleader and you're jumping up and down on the desk and all that stuff. It's not Steve Ballmer from Microsoft. It is taking the time to connect with people genuinely, authentically. We need to move on, but we can get back to that, you know, because we're going to that Q&A, Michelle. We're working toward that Q&A. Great leaders have got a toolbox that's filled with best practices, and I'm just going to mention 3 things that I recommend in every leader's toolbox. One is the emotional intelligence self-assessment, and then talking to someone who knows something about it to help you debrief that, right? Like, you know, it's hard to do it online. Tap into somebody that, you know, can maybe help with that. But the EQ self-assessment, really important. The leadership practices inventory 360. That's where everybody who is around you gives you feedback on how good a leader you are. You measure yourself on the top 30 skills of leadership, and then everybody around you does the same thing. Takes courage. It really does take courage. But that's one of the things that great CEOs get. They have the courage to get honest feedback. Oh, and it can hurt, right? It hurts. But it's by getting honest feedback, we get better, right? We get better. The other thing, and this is in the back of the book written by Susan Scott. It's one of the best books that I've ever read, a business book, and it's called Fierce Conversations. Most leaders don't like confrontation. They don't like conflict. I don't like conflict at all. In the back of Susan's book, there is a template on how to have a confrontational conversation with the person that if it doesn't get better, they're not going to be there anymore. Most of us as leaders go way, way too long with someone that's not performing because we care about them. And, you know, no, they're going to get better next month, next year, whatever. And at some point, you got to deal with it, right? And have that conversation. And so it's a great thing. The other thing we're going to talk about in a second is I call it QPM. It stands for Quarterly Priorities Management. And it's a great tool in the toolkit. What are your top 5 priorities for the next 90 days? And what are the top priorities for all the people who report to you, if you're in a business where people are reporting to you, or all the people that, you know, you need to accomplish something to get done what you want to get done. And it's a powerful tool. So And I'm going to mention a couple other things when we get to a culture of accountability, but I want to move ahead. Great leaders have work-life balance. They have success in all dimensions of their lives. Well, you can't get there without really good people around you. So it's really important, even if you're a sole proprietor who wants to get bigger, that next person that you bring in has got to be good at what they do. Because and there's a book written by Bradford Smart on talent management, and he proves in there in chapter 5 that having the wrong person on the bus, if you will, costs you a lot. Like it can cost you 15 times what you're paying them because of the opportunity cost that they won't see. And someone who's resourceful, which is the mega quality of an A player, of a high performer, resourcefulness, getting it done, is the difference between that A player and someone who isn't is a lot. It's significant, and as he says, it's 15 times. That's huge. So I just want to. So the point being that it's hard to get work-life balance without having a good team around you, people around you that can help you have that balance, right? The thing is, we just got to figure it out. It's something that's taken me a long time. I'm not even sure I figured it out yet. I know it's really important. I'm better than I was at it. I'm probably not where I should be, right? But it's really important. When I ask CEOs, if you could have one decision back that you made in the last year, good question to ask yourself, by the way. If you could have one decision back that you made in the last year, which one is it? And they look at me with tears in their eyes and say, I should have been at that graduation. I should have been at that recital for my kids. And I was on a business trip and I missed it. My daughter got a home run the other day and I missed it. Why? Balance. Didn't have the right people around them. Didn't have the right priorities. So it's a big one, big one. Great CEOs build a great team. We touched on that. It's really important because, without those people around you that are really, sharing your vision and helping you get to where you want to go, you just can't get there. When I see a CEO out of balance, it's quite often because someone on their team is taking their attention because they're not getting the job done. And so they're spending, and it could be someone who was the CFO and now they're the CEO, and the successor that they put in is that they're not doing it. And so that CEO is spending time in his old CFO job. Could be any job in the company, right? And so it's just really important. It's a major key performance indicator and success indicator is as you grow the business, how many really good players you got on the bus, as Jim Collins would say. And so it's absolutely critical. And one way to evaluate that is if someone came in and resigned tomorrow, if you got an email and said, by the way, I've decided to leave the company, how do you feel about that? Are you upset or not? And it's a nice litmus test to kind of take, right, on people. The other, just in terms of developing a good team, a really high performance team, trust is so important, isn't it? Trust is the number one thing. Most teams break down if there's a lack of trust, and so it's the leader's job to build that trust with the team, wherever that team is in the organization. It doesn't have to be the top team; it can be the accounting team. It can be the operations team or whatever, right? It can be a team. It can be a team you're working on at a charity that you're involved with, and you happen to be, you're leading that team, right, to accomplish something. And trust is absolutely critical. It's the building block. That's why spending time is so important. So important. Great CEOs. Number 6. We're on number 6, by the way. I should be numbering these things. Number 6. Great CEOs develop a culture of accountability. They hold themselves accountable to do their job. I say to CEOs, what's your highest and best use in this business? Sometimes they look at me with a blank stare, like, that's a good question, John. Yeah, that is a good question. What's your highest best use in the business? And then hold yourself accountable to accomplishing it. It's about the person in the mirror. But then the other thing I mentioned, the quarterly priorities review, where you just lay out your top 5. That's a really useful tool for anybody running a business. And then the other thing is spending time one-on-one with everybody on your team. That is so important. It gets back to what we talked about before in terms of quality time with you, the leader, is what people are looking for. And it's absolutely critical. And a lot of people miss it. So I encourage leaders to spend at least 2 hours a month with their direct reports, people on their team, talking about what's the most important thing we should talk about today. What's the highest best use of our time? Well, I need to talk to you about my son, I need to talk to you about, my marriage. I think it's going the wrong way. Like, when you get to the point where you can talk about those things with the people working with you and help with that, it's huge. It's not all about the numbers. Number 7, and then we're going to open it up. The 7th imperative is there's no need to be lonely running a business. There's no need to be lonely as a leader, as I said, as I was. Wise people have said your network is your net worth. It's really important for leaders to, at a very early stage of their career, develop a network of people you trust, people you can talk about, talk with, people who have your back, right? That's one of the things about an A team. I know they got my back. Like that's trust, eh? They got me covered. They're not out to have me fail. They're out to have me succeed. So it's really important. And there's a woman by the name of Sage Nicole Joni, who wrote a book called The Third Opinion. And in that book, she encouraged people to tap into the wisdom of other people to accelerate your own development. So if you're running a business, tap into the wisdom and experiences of other people running businesses to accelerate your own personal and professional growth. And so I want to wrap it up right there in the interest of time and getting some discussion going, Michelle. But I hope that major takeaways from our time together. Number 1, great CEOs are made, they're not born. And they're lifelong learners. And they're a success in all dimensions of their lives. And they implement these imperatives. So with that, and maybe I could come back in a couple of minutes and just wrap up if we had time, but maybe we'll open it up to some questions, Michelle, if anybody's got any.
Yeah, that's great. John, I just want to say this. I know when my head hits the pillow tonight, I will have been smarter than when I woke up. This was good stuff you brought to the table.
Thank you, Michelle.
So Ken does have a question in the chat box.
Oh, good. Do you want to read it?
I will read it, absolutely. So I like this question. So do companies who build people build profits? Those that diminish people diminish people? Okay, that's not the one I had, the one before that. That's a good question, but let's talk about this one. On talent management, how important is it to build on people's strengths rather than build on their weak areas? That's the question I want to.
That's a great question. Who asked that question?
Ken Zen.
Build on their strengths. Focus on strengths. It doesn't mean that we're not aware of areas that we got to get better at, but build on your strengths. I believe in that 100%. and continue, like, become a lifelong learner around your strengths. Like if, yeah. So that's my answer, Ken.
Michelle, I've got a question.
It doesn't mean you ignore, like, I mean, it depends, I mean, you gotta know yourself, right? So, hey, I mean, I got to get better at this, I got to get better at numbers. I got to get better at whatever it is. It doesn't mean you ignore them, but, play to your strengths.
That's great. I think that was a question that you actually answered for me as I'm working with some of the people that I'm working with. Focus on the strengths, build that. Thank you so much. That's really good.
100%.
Ken, you had your mic on.
Yes,
Yeah.
I've got my burning question is that my original first question within the first few minutes. You mentioned, John, you talked about leadership and accountability, and the highest and best use of our time. My question right now is, a number of the Commonwealth countries are saying the leadership of the monarchy in colonization, they are seeking to separate their countries from the monarchy, and hopefully move forward on decolonization. It may be only window dressing, and I think probably we agree on that. But the point is that the window dressing, if we can do this cleanup, maybe we can people can start to believe that we're serious about what we're talking about. So, is there a place? Is there a value to stepping away from the monarchy? And I just
I don't know. I really don't want to comment on that, Ken.
Yeah.
Okay.
I want to talk about leadership, right? I want to talk about leadership, and I mean, we've all got thoughts on that, but I don't think this is a forum for it.
Yeah, definitely a conversation, important conversation, but this
important conversation.
This is not the platform to have that. But yeah, keep that, Ken, keep that thought. And I hope that you can land that question somewhere where, good conversation can come out of that.
Yeah, for sure. I don't mean to shortchange the question at all, Ken. It's just that, maybe we've got some other questions around leadership, which, it's really what I'm here to talk about.
Yeah, I was actually your very first out of the 7 imperatives. The very first one caught me off guard. Emotional intelligence. And I think that is so important. And actually, after we get off this call, I'm going to go take an emotional intelligence, one of the quizzes that you can find online, just to see where I am. And I think that is really good. I'm glad you brought that to the table. Anybody else? So Laura or Melissa, do you have any questions? I mean, there was lots of good knowledge that was shared. You might be still, percolating and contemplating.
Processing.
Yeah, Laura, come on in.
Hi.
Hey, Laura, how you doing, Laura?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you. Thank you, John. I like that. I liked everything you said. I don't really have any questions, but I do. That what you said about the Toronto Maple Leafs player there.
Oh yeah, the aggregation marginal gains.
Yeah, I just read that in Habits of Highly Effective People. I think it's a book that just came out, and it just talks about doing just a small amount, like just you don't have to be, but if you just keep doing it and doing it,
absolutely,
you're just gonna get better, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And if we look out there, there are so many things that could just move the needle a little bit, and it's just, in many cases, it's awareness of it, isn't it? Like, it's awareness of this and that. It's maybe a tool that you could use that'll help you, in what you're doing. And it's just it is little steps along the way. Aggregation of marginal gains. Thanks for that.
And just one more thing, I don't think I have any question. I was writing down everything as you were speaking, but you know what, that kind of hit home a little bit, because I always look at the links to learning, like every week. I might have registered a few times and didn't make the time for it, or like I'm pretty busy. And then I said to myself, you know what, like, I'm always looking for learning. I'm just crazy,
Well, good for you.
that's all I want to do is I want to learn. And so I'm glad that felt like that little 1% by signing up today. So I just want to say,
That's great. Thank you very much for that. That's a gift. That's a gift from you to me. I appreciate that. I really do.
okay.
Really.
That's it for
It's
me.
great. It's great being with everybody today. I've really enjoyed this. This is a great group, and like, don't hesitate to reach out if you like. I mean, if I can be of any help in any way for anybody, just reach out, and I'd be glad to help. And if you ever want to invite me back again, Michelle or Danielle, I mean, I'd be glad to come back too. And we have a little bit more time. We have a little bit more time.
John,
Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Ken.
Good. And you answered some questions that I myself as a leader have been battling and wondering. So, it was a really great hour to spend with you. I feel stronger in my knowledge and even my capacity as a leader. And I hope everyone else does. That you've given us a lot to think about as well. Being the best of the best and having the best leaders in our communities, in our nations, and our organizations, that's what will make us stronger. So all of your knowledge was so important. So 7 imperatives of a good CEO. John brought the knowledge today. So I believe you can find this link. I was trying to specifically find it. But if you go onto the Can Do website and you go into the links to learning, you'll be able to find the archives of all of the videos that we record for this. So I hope you can find this one. I know I was taking mad notes. Melissa was taking mad notes. Lots of good stuff. So thank you so much for being here. And John, what a delight. Thank you. And I hope we have you back again.
No, absolutely. I would look forward to that. I really would. So thank you very much. It's just been great being with you. I really appreciate it.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. And Danielle will send the link in the executive summary when she sends the evaluation email. So get those evaluations in, everybody. And we'll see you next time. Take care. Peace.
Thanks, everybody. You take care. Bye, Michelle. Bye, Danielle.